Bonjour, namaste, assalamu alaikum, and a very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're listening to this podcast at to you. I'm your host, Erva. Welcome back to Kitcast. This week, we have very exciting guests who are coming in with a new concept in marketing and influencer marketing, precisely. So we're meeting the founders of Mifu, Alex and Kasim. I'll leave it to them to introduce themselves and the concept of Mifu.
Hi, yes, I'm Kasim. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be on the podcast. This is Alex.
Hi everyone.
And essentially what Mifu is it's a way to scale influence marketing. So it's a way of allowing brands to work with and marketers to work with many influencers at a time. So that's how we got into the business. That's why we got into the business. And the benefits of that are tenfold. You know, it allows you to work on these high scale, low risk campaigns because you're able to make use of some of the smaller influencers as well as the larger ones. So you're able to unlock using, loads of these small influencers as opposed to just pumping all of your money into one or two big influencers. So how we've done that is thanks to Alex, not me. I'm not techie at all, but Alex is kind of the mastermind behind it all. So he was able to, as soon as we started, begin introducing automation in every step of working with influencers. So essentially how we kicked off is we wanted to unlock working with smaller influencers because we found out that loads of marketers want to work with these smaller influencers, but the administrative costs that come with working with them are so large. So trying to find all of these influencers, first of all, imagine you're a marketer trying to find all of these small influencers who are right for your brand. It's very tough. But not only that, you have to then contact them, you have to negotiate a right price with them, you have to stay in contact with them, make sure they're posting at the right time, make sure they're posting the right stuff, make sure you're paying each of them correctly at the right time, and then you analyze all of that different content from all of these different creators and make sure that which ones are performing well, which ones aren't, which ones you want to use again. So all of that is a big process. I mean, it's a mouthful, as you can see right now. But what we've done, or what Alex has very cleverly done, is add automation in all those steps. So our platform essentially is a tool which allows brands to create more and more automation through those steps and just make those steps more efficient and make them simplified and more streamlined. And on the other side is the app. But
I think when you say automation, it's interesting because influencer marketing is an intrinsically human relationship, and when we say automation, we're not referring to just scale this to thousands and factories and robots. We're still keeping a lot of the human element in it, but just making it as simple as possible for brands and influencers and creators, both sides, to work together without the boring parts for both sides. It's not just this factory of robots, and that's something we figured out as we've tried to bring AI and automation into this, because we do use AI, but we don't want to over rely on it because that human part is so critical in the process, and so that's something we're very careful of towing the line, and we've come a long way. We're starting to have the tech that enables these creative campaigns with thousands of creators in a campaign, and that's the bread and butter of Mifu.
And when it comes to influencers, how do you find them, and because linking them with the right brands, the brands are looking for the right type of creators, right? And there's a lot of big ones and a lot of small ones. How important is quality over quantity for you and for Mifu and for brands in general?
I mean, I think it's crucial, and I think that's a big reason why working with micro influencers is so important, because what you get, as opposed to kind of getting this scattergun approach, you could say, of working with large influencers, where you say, okay, this person, he fits 4 or 5 demographics. Let's say it's Jake Paul, for example, the biggest kind of influencer types. He has boxing fans following him. He has people who followed his YouTube back in the day. He has people who like his comedy skits, whatever it is. He has so many different demographics that it becomes a bit diluted. So when you're, let's say, wanting to target, let's say you're a boxing promotional, you do boxing gloves, for example, you ask him to promote it, you're only targeting a very small percentage of his followers. With micro-influencers, that's the best part about them. You can really focus on that niche. So when you go for, let's say, 100 small influencers who are all focused solely on boxing, you know that 100% or 90% of their followers are going to be interested in boxing, as opposed to Jake Paul's 20%. So you're getting a higher quantity of quality audience who are directly interested in the product you're marketing. And so that's a big reason why we want to kind of use micro-influencers, unlock them, and make sure we're not using them to market products. So it's more kind of tailored, and it has more directly targets the audience of the specific marketer.
And let's come to the app. So how is it going to be based? How are people going to be able to use it? So I'm going to start from the basics because I also do not know about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, the app really has two sides. Its sole purpose is to make content creators' lives easier in finding brand partnerships and engaging with brands. It does that in two core ways. One is campaigns, which is your traditional paid engagements where we'll say to a specific creator with a specific brief, we want to pay you this much to do this thing. And the other side is opportunities where we're almost flipping it around and trying to get brands to post really exciting opportunities that content creators can apply to or claim. And in that way, it's kind of a value exchange. The brand gets exposure on the content creator's channel, but they also get top tier opportunities to make content on. At the end of the day, they need to make content. And so by providing these avenues, it can kind of bring more excitement into what they can actually create. So we're exploring things like cooking with head chefs of restaurant chains, or going behind the scenes at cinemas or car factories, and things that they might not normally get access to, not just here's a product for free, please can you post it on your channel. A little bit more exciting than that.
Yeah, and put very simply, what you gain when you download the app, it's not just for the influencer, you know, the big influencer, as I said, the Jake Paul, or even the micro influencer with 30,000 followers. It's for anyone. Let's say you have a friend, or you have 3,000, 4,000 followers. You can go around to the corner shop or not the corner shop, the cafe locally, and pick up, you know, a coffee and a cookie. And for that, all you have to do is post a story. And it's that nice little exchange that doesn't cost much to either party. You know, it's what's a story post to you, and what's, you know, one free coffee to them, and you get this kind of value add to both. You know, the let's say a growing profile, or also the brand itself. So it's basically an exchange of reach, social profiles reach with, you know, some product or service.
And what are your aims for the app? Like, what do you aim to accomplish through it?
So I mean, what we want to create is a thriving ecosystem where kind of influencers, people with social profiles who might not even realize the worth of their social profiles. They just go around posting because they love it. People love posting on Instagram. That, their friends can see their things, but they might not realize the worth of it. That you're posting to the world often. So what we want is a community where these people with social profiles can then go and go around and make use of that, pick up free things here and there, schedule, okay, you know what, I'm going to go for a coffee with a friend, why don't we get it free? All you have to do is post on my account. Just make it a system where you can benefit from your Instagram, your TikTok, whatever it is, as opposed to kind of having it as just a personal pleasure. So one other element I want to touch on about the app is how we want to basically make it a fun experience for the influencers. It's not just about, okay, this is my job and now I'm able to benefit from it by collecting a few free things here and there, events, food, services, whatever it is. What we also want to make it is a kind of something that you can go on consistently and receive, a random raffle to earn something free. You'll be able to get benefits which might be able to get you, allow you to create better content. And we really want to be helping creators grow their accounts. So it's for all levels of creators. It's for, those who maybe do it as a side hobby and they just want to maybe collect a coffee, those who are growing their accounts and want to know how to make better content, and those with, huge followings who want the biggest gifts, going to Stamford Bridge and watching a Chelsea match. You know, it's about all levels. So we want to make it fun for them and fun for every level.
So I wanted to ask you, like, you came up with this whole concept and made this whole brand. How did you guys meet, and how did you basically begin the ideation of it?
So we met at university, and we actually met on this innovation course, which is a way where you come up with different business ideas, and you kind of critically analyze it to see how well they would work in a real world scenario. And we met in our fourth year. He was a computer science student, I was in anthropology, and you kind of form a group with whoever else is around who's keen to work together. And we ended up working together in our final year, and we worked backwards. A lot of people kind of work forward saying, okay, we're going to do an app for tattoos, and just kind of went forward thinking, okay, how do we practically make that work? Whereas what we did was we worked backwards. So we said, what is this big hole in the what is this growing industry first? And influence marketing was a glaringly obvious one. And then what is the kind of black hole within it? And it's kind of, as I touched on, it's the micro influencer, unlocking that micro influencer. So what we look to do is, you know, start by creating that platform, but it's very hard to kind of create a full platform when you're at university, or it's a university project. So what we did was we did it all manually. We started off by testing exactly how it worked, messaging all of these influencers, trying to do it en masse, figuring out how difficult it is and how many problems there are. And through doing it manually, we were able to see which bits were the kind of bottlenecks in that funnel. And from that, we were able to say, okay, Alex, this is where you're going to need to create some kind of automation. This area is just a complete problem. We're going to need to open this up. So eventually we worked, and I think 3 years later now, 2.5 years later now, we've unlocked a lot of those major problems, and that's why we're able to run as such an efficient agency at the moment. And hopefully when the app is out, we're going to be able to kind of further enhance that whole process, because on the influencer side now we're going to have so much more ease of use, and the campaigns are going to be able to run so much smoother, because their process is now very simple. It's, you know, they receive an invite, they're able to view the content, they're able to agree that, okay, I'm on, they put their content via the app, and then it just goes into kind of the brand monitoring on the other side. So it's a very streamlined service on both sides now, as of December 2nd, and that's kind of the future of Mifu. So we have the brands on the platforms and the influencers on the app. So hopefully that's kind of where we're moving towards.
And how do you appeal to the different brands? Like, so far since you began Mifu, how has your experience been with, you know, catching on to brands and making these deals as well? Kicking off, we basically were very small scale. We just kind of trialed it. We took barely a profit when we came out of university.
Definitely
a loss.
A loss.
Yeah, we were making a loss. And eventually, what I think how we kicked off was we worked on a film, and we just kind of said, look, we will take on as much all the costs. All we need is your room where we can screen a film, and we'll bring all the influencers. And we said, okay, look, we're able to offer to the influencers. We said we're able to offer this pre-release screening of this film. You're invited. It's an exclusive screening, and they all got them really excited, and they all got really excited, came over, and even though they were top influencers who were very high profile, when you're able to be to get that gratification of, okay, I've been invited because of my hard work, a lot of them are very keen to come. They want to, they want to come, whatever the film is, they want to kind of earn that privilege. And I think that's very much what the app does, is it gives people, gives influencers that validation that, you know, their work means something. And so we did that. We brought them to a screening, and the results were phenomenal. And the company who we did it with ended up, you know, being so happy with the results that we ended up having recurring campaigns with them. Obviously filtered through to some other people, and that kind of kicked us off. So I guess it was grafting with not a lot of profit. Is how we did it.
I think in the early days though, I think we always were going to make a loss, and I think that is the right mindset to take with it, because in those first clients that you ever work for, the number one thing you need to be looking for is feedback. And we said, you know, we'll do this for a ridiculously cheap price, basically working for free for them. And especially when we had no tech at all, and it was just Kasim painstakingly going through Excels for days on end. But every one of them had to agree to give a feedback session, and those feedback sessions really helped shape where the product was going, and it was more about the learning, and that was the value exchange. And in those early days, I think that was really important for us. And now some of them, we have brought on and are still with us today, and so we build up that relationship and we can figure out the funding later, but that was so valuable for us at the time.
And moving forward, like, because the influencer market is getting constantly diluted, there's a lot of influencers that are coming out on a micro level and a macro level. How do you see the role of them changing in the future, and do you think that at some point brands might get tired of this business?
It's interesting. So, I mean, everyone has their two pants on this, but mine and maybe Kasim's opinion is influencer marketing or influencer marketing technology is where ad tech was 20, 30 years ago, when we first started to see programmatic advertising, which really kind of took off. Online ads probably 20 years ago is the extreme of that. And then when you first started to see Facebook, Instagram, all these kind of programmatic adverts, we think that's where creator marketing is starting to go, and that's what we want to help happen, is be that ecosystem that provides the technology to scale it. People are trusting traditional adverts less and less. A few years ago, Apple brought in the app tracking transparency changes, which meant you had to consent when you open the app to privacy for them doing targeted adverts. That was really bad news for traditional ads, but for things like influencers and content creators, where by making that follow, you're publicly saying, okay, this is something I'm actually interested in. And it's a much softer way into marketing people by, you've told us you like this person's page, we're working with them to highlight something we think you genuinely will like, rather than these perhaps more intrusive traditional ways. And so I personally believe that the creator space and the influencer space is just going to grow more. We've seen Mark Zuckerberg said a few weeks ago, is 220 million content creators on Meta and Instagram and Facebook alone, and so across all the platforms, and that is just growing more and more. So we think on the smaller scale, these people with 10,000 to 100,000, they're going to become so much more important for brands to be able to reach these small communities.
Yeah, for sure. And I think just piggybacking off that end bit, with these smaller influencers, these 10 to 100,000 follower influencers, what we found is that a lot of young people now on TikTok, on Instagram, they form what are called parasocial connections with these influencers, and essentially what that means is, rather than it's a one-way kind of bond that a lot of these viewers have with the influencers, as opposed to kind of a traditional relationship, and that comes not from the largest influencers. It's only with the smaller ones, because they feel like this is someone who I have a connection with personally, because not everyone knows about them. I know about them, and because I know about them, I trust them. I sometimes have a dialogue with them. I comment, he replies, he likes. So all of a sudden you build this bond, and it might not be two ways, but the trust is there. That's the added element, and that's where kind of micro influencers really take a step up from some of the larger influencers, and the level of authenticity that comes, or the perceived authenticity that comes from them, is so much greater. So I think when you're looking at the future of what happens with influencers, with micro influencers, I think the micro influencer is really where marketers are going to focus in the next few years.
And I wanted to ask a little bit more about the business side of things, as you guys are a startup. And you might have faced a lot of struggles, as you mentioned, like you didn't take a profit for the beginning part and it must have been difficult. What advice do you have for people regarding like starting a business, regarding ideation? People are often, scared of the whole situation. They might not take that step ahead because they think, oh, it's too much.
There's a few different questions in there, I guess, but I think ideation's interesting because we definitely are not where we started 2.5 years ago. Our dissertation that we handed in for this initial project, if you looked at that today, would probably be complete opposite of what we're doing now. You have to be able to pivot and listen to the feedback. We were saying early on, have that feedback, and there's no point having it if you don't listen to it and change and see where you're going, listen to the customers. In terms of funding, I think the UK is actually quite a good place for creating startups, and maybe a bit of a hot take on that, but there are a lot of grant places, centres. So we both did NEF by the Centre for Entrepreneurs. They have loads of communities of other people doing similar things, and it can be really helpful to build yourself that network of support. And then of course there's universities that are starting to do really good inroads in that. We were very fortunate that Bristol was one of the universities that has a very good startup ecosystem. So outside of the course, we went on to their Runway program, which is essentially an incubator, and it's funded by grant funding. And that was really what enabled us to go straight out of university into that, because I think it was about 40K in grants from that program, and that was basically pitch days, as if you were pitching to a VC, except it was a university thing, and there were some VC people just on the panel. And so I think looking for things like that, and it sounds silly to say, but can be so critical in getting going and just giving you that bit of leeway, because obviously you need to earn a living, you need to be able to survive, so having that balance can be really hard to find.
Yeah, for sure. I think having that platform after that competition and that grant funding, that was kind of, if we didn't have that, I don't think we'd be here now. Alex had some great offers of where to work after university, and it was we had some big decisions to make straight after. It was quite a funny story actually, how we actually decided to end up working on this officially. Initially we thought it was just going to be a university project, and we presented our initial idea about a term in, and we got to the end, we presented to the class, and our teacher took us aside, and he took us into a side room, and he kind of sort of telling us a little bit about his background, his history, his career history, and then at the end he said, "So I'd quite like to take part in your company, and I'd like 10% of it." And it felt like a kind of Dragon's Den pitch that we both kind of I think we locked eyes and chuckled a little bit in the room. But as we left, we were like, okay, maybe this is a little bit more than a kind of university project. Maybe we should take this a bit more seriously. And so we kind of had a couple of chats, and eventually, one night, one evening, we had a long conversation, and we were like, okay, I think we're gonna see what we can do here, give it a go, just have a shot. And yeah, very luckily, as we kept doing more and more research, we found, okay, this does fit. This it is a concept that could work. And yeah, as we progressed, we've managed to kind of pivot and find what Mifu is now.
And in terms of as you mentioned, your idea is not the same as it was when you started out. Was it because sometimes, at least if I say it in my perspective, I become quite rigid with my ideas, because if I'm excited about something, I'm going to be like, well, this idea is mine, I don't want to change it around that much. Has it been kind of like that, or were you open to flexibility, and how important is flexibility when you're working on a startup?
Yeah, we we don't argue all the time. We disagree on a lot of things, and I think that's critical. If we agreed on everything, the business would fail.
Yeah.
Like, we have to push back on each other, and I think even in those, sometimes personal opinions do come into it. Like, when we first started, we started in media, and we're like, what's interesting in media? We looked at how can you compare the different kind of left wing, right wing, and different takes on news, and give a factual kind of what the different sides are saying, and I don't think I was personally as interested in that, and that was a personal opinion. And there's been many times in the business where personal opinions come into it, but then also just disagreeing is critical. Like, we had a new joiner today who is far more senior than us, Lara. She's worked in big influencer marketing companies, and we came in, I was like, just absolutely tear us to shreds, don't hold back, anything and everything, just tell us off, tell us how it is. And I think that's critical. Any feedback, anything, you have to just have that open communication, otherwise things will go hidden, problems will come up, and it's just not going to be healthy.
Yeah. No, I think you're spot on. It's often about being kind of allowing yourself to be humbled by the advice of others. So what we did early on, when we were saying, we were making no profit, or making no money really, what we did a lot was just force conversations with whoever would have them with us. So I remember I was speaking to everyone, and so many times, especially early on, when we would I would pitch the bare bones of what Mifu is now, people would just completely tear it apart. And at the I would come back here, kind of tail between my legs, and be like, Alex, didn't go very well. Like, she doesn't like the idea. This, she hates it. And it's about kind of, after you kind of have allowed yourself to recover from the humbling, you kind of look at, okay, what was the advice? Okay, it's not actually that the idea is terrible. It's that this needs to be pulled back. This is a great idea. There's a golden nugget there, and it's about putting all the pieces together and seeing what can work. And often, it's very easy to get very sucked into your idea. As you said, you get, very stuck in your ways, and you get really sucked into your idea. But sometimes you've been so stuck in your idea that something so simple can just, skip your vision. For example, the app. The fact that influencers are of course going to be taking all their videos on a phone. Something as simple as that. It should have come to us instantly, but it ended up taking us about 6 months. I think maybe a year to be like, okay, maybe we should make the functionality a lot more optimized for a phone for influencers, and the platform for the brands. And so small things like that, you get these ideas from just talking to everyone. So what I would say is just, which I'm glad we did, is we were never kind of afraid to just lay our idea out, and just say, look, this is what we have, hit us with everything that's wrong with it, and hurt at times, but no, that's so worth it. And I'm glad we did that.
And do you have any advice for like influencers or stuff who are gonna join your app? Let's just come to the app, because the launch is December 2nd.
Yes.
Yeah.
Influencers is interesting. So this whole space, let's say, has been going just about 10 years. Mm-hmm. And so it's still pretty early on as industries go, or sub-industries. And so there is a lot of people have, say it's a bit of a Wild West time in the industry, and transparency is not one of the highlights of this space. We've heard stories of agencies that charge 100% fees without the influencer ever knowing. They're just doubling the invoices, and transparency is an interesting thing. So it's one of the parts of the Mifu ecosystem, is just to make it easy for everyone to be clear. This is exactly what's going on. You're being paid this much. This fee's going to this person for doing this, and just making sure that everyone has a somewhat level playing field. If we go off Zuckerberg's fact of like 220 million content creators on Instagram alone, if one talent agent had 10, we'd still need like 22 million talent agents. We obviously don't have that, and so there needs to be some kind of way for these creators to have a level playing field and get a bit of support, and we really think that is one of the benefits of the Mifu app. And it's something we're exploring over the longer term. We're ideating with creators, listening to what their needs are, what they want, and something we hope to be able to build more and more in to help them, give them the level playing field that they deserve ultimately, because sometimes it can be a little bit shady in this space because it's so new and fast and rapid. So it's definitely one part of the app and advice I would say. We're not going to be your savior today, but hopefully as we go, we can help them more and more on that side of things as well.
Yeah, I think for sure. I think security on both sides is definitely something that's been a problem for a while on both sides. But yeah, if you're able to just give it more clarity, it's invaluable, I think.
And privacy as well. How important is that?
I mean,
the ecosystem.
Even with the Mifu app, a creator can just put their address in the Mifu app, and then they don't have to kind of ping it out to all these different brands, half of which might not actually end up sending them. We'll only obviously show their address to a brand if they actually are getting a product, and so
contract signed and
basic things like that. Contracts, escrow. A lot of the time, creators don't get paid, or agencies miss out on creators not posting on time. So there's also financial security. And we basically store payment details and stuff, and it all just routes through us instead of having to have bank details going everywhere and late payments and all that kind of stuff. We're just a safe middle ground really between the two, and that was one of the areas we found in the research that is a bit messy in this space at the moment. So it's one of the areas we're exploring.
And that research is all primary. And that is from me, by the way. So I know the full level of how painful these email chains can be, and so to be able to basically create a system and to formalize the whole process of an influencer's role, it's that's kind of the key element of what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it being an influencer. A job which has a process as opposed to just being this random email chain and kind of a back and forth system which always ends up going a bit awry,
or being solely dependent on talent agents, which can be very expensive.
Yeah,
some are amazing, some are very expensive.
Yeah,
Mifu's not one. In the middle.
So I'll give you a few minutes to market your app that's coming out. So, okay, there you go.
I would say what's most important is from a brand's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It's a chance for you, if you trust your product, it's a chance for you to bring in people to review your product or service. So people will be coming through your door, and people will be speaking online about whether they liked it, posting about it, and people online will be seeing it. It's that simple. If you trust your product, let people do the reviewing. On the influencer side, I would say it's free opportunities for content and free opportunities for getting things you like. It's very, very simple. So there's zero downside on the influencer side whatsoever to downloading it and giving it a try. And you don't have to be an influencer. It's as long as you have a public profile on Instagram, on TikTok, you may as well try it out and see what you can get.
Over 1,000 followers, and you can apply to opportunities, and I think those opportunities that you can get on the smaller side are nice and fun to have, and then there's the really exciting ones that also give you a great opportunity to make that content, and to your audience they go, oh, that's pretty cool, this person collaborated with Jaguar is very topical right now, a car company or whoever it is, and it can also help to grow your profile because you're getting more exposure through partnering with these brands, and can really elevate your content. And often brands who pull in through, let's say, gifting opportunities, getting these free services, that can then in future convert into paid partnerships, so it can also be a great way to get your foot in the door.
So, with that, we're coming towards the end of it. Thank you so much, Alex and Kasim. And so make sure you guys are staying up to date. Mifu, the app, is launching on December 2nd, and Accelerate from Kickstart is also opening its application soon. So please stay tuned on all our Instagram pages. Also follow Mifu and Kickstart. And thank you so much for listening. This was Arva. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.